You know, people that knew you before
Yeah, exactly.
and know how to tell you to settle down. Oh, baby. Oh, look at all that hair.
So she like.
Congratulations and hello.
Yes, congratulations. Oh, you're lucky.
That would be awesome.
She's
She's got lots of natural. At least.
How's mommy feeling?
I brought it just for that in case you brought the baby.
Yeah, because stranger,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and until that little immune system builds up.
Yeah.
Each and every one of our littles came along.
Something
Aw.
else came up. and she's
Stronger.
Like a new style binky.
Cleveland.
You know what, we've had those through all of our kids, a little advent, but my kids love them
Changed
because
jobs.
they're hollow in the
After
middle, so you can
appointment,
stick your
they had
finger
their
like your
first meeting
finger.
and
Aw.
to work with, I
Did
guess.
all your kids have that
Or
much hair?
at least.
You know what,
either said,
no, they
you
all
can't
had
serve
hair,
there,
she has the
or
most, but she
use
was
it
in
as an
there
opportunity, so
post
they
due
said I
days,
could.
so I think just had extra time
That's
to grow
the, that's the
hair.
message.
Now, how far
Oh.
past
Got
you
more
do
hair
they?
than me.
Thankfully, we were only 2 days past by the time we went into hard
She
labor
is-
contractions,
Oh my gosh,
but.
she's beautiful.
She is.
Yes.
Really?
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're-
Did I mean to
I
steal
help
the
you?
show here?
No.
No.
We
Oh,
want
We
you to feel
want
high
you to
school.
feel-
I promise I
We have our alternate.
That's right.
Have our alternate.
Yeah, we're
That's
set.
true. She hasn't declared a party yet, so.
Aw.
has
Look,
cast
she's raising
her
her
votes.
hands up. She's
Yeah.
ready to vote already.
I have a feeling which way she might go, but she's heard a lot of things.
I can talk.
She could probably go from being in vitro or, you know,
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I know what you're
In
saying.
She was,
utero.
I was gonna say, yeah, she spent the last 9 months
She's
listening
done
here.
this.
Yeah, she has
Like,
more
why
experience
can't I
than
think of that
me.
word?
So some people foreign languages in the womb, others play,
True story.
participles.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's terrifying.
Aw.
She is
She
beautiful.
is, she is.
I love her name too.
Thank you. Yeah, it took some convincing of mother and in-laws, but once she was born, we named it. Everybody loves it, so.
So is
You just gotta
there,
say it.
okay, so I'm always like, I'm a nickname girl. So is there any kind of,
Yeah, we've been going through that because everybody was concerned about the nickname, but my husband's already calling Feely, and the boys are calling her Felia, and and Leah. There's all lots of variations.
Oh,
but
Leah.
Oh.
Yeah.
whatever comes naturally.
Everybody can have their own version.
Yeah, exactly. My mom was calling her Leah the other day,
Oh.
so I don't.
Oh, wow, you got a whole.
Yeah, just whatever it takes, but the boys were funny because there were only 4, but they told my mom, they're like, Grandma, her name is Ophelia, it's not hard. They're like, you can say it.
If we can say it, Grandma, you can say it.
Exactly. I want.
Oh, she's starting to see. Just make sure.
Did you
My
have
middle initial is in
driver?
there. It's my middle
No, I
initial.
drove.
You drove
Yeah,
B as
yourself?
in boy.
Oh, change that
We
on the
did it
board,
all the
absolutely.
time. I did it with twins.
Here, I'll make the notes. This is my copy that everyone's gonna sign, because we can adjust that.
Oh,
I have a hard time getting myself up in here.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, it was on there for a while and then all of
I
a
called
sudden.
my
it
This
husband
just
on
lady
the
disappeared.
night
has a
shift
case on the
because
next
of
meeting,
the
and I couldn't
driver.
get that here,
But
but I
we
said.
don't get to bed till at least midnight because she's a night owl. So she decides to
If
really
you
wake
want,
up around 9:30.
if he wants to give me a minute, I could run down and print another copy for this meeting.
And she
You
did
just
file a
amend
response, we
That's
have
fine.
that. That's yours.
Yeah, he did it on that
Um,
3:30 shift. That wasn't me today.
well, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, he was good.
Through, if these folks are, I kind of have expected this guy to show.
Didn't they last time?
No, this is the first time. He,
But we've had
You
paper.
need any help? Let me know.
well, you got all the paperwork
Yeah.
for it, yeah.
Okay, appreciate that.
No, that's it
I
right
want to
there.
put you to work
You know,
just
but
yet.
He's been a pain in the butt for the
We have
elections.
3
and
of
talking
them.
to the
It's
board.
been a while,
So that if you look at the response,
but I never forget that.
completely against themselves. Referral. Yeah, they talked about it. It was like,
Oh, yeah.
Well, mine are in the smart mouth here, so I do forget.
Ah,
uh,
We want it right
I
now.
really get it, so that's a good thing. You know, Funny look up.
Yeah, it's like, you're a little guys.
Mine are
You can't
12
try
and
and
14.
say that just
Yeah,
the
that's good.
$900 difference is not a big deal.
So I shouldn't complain.
You know, I mean, they
They're-
try tread that way.
Their level of
And so you can see.
smart mouth and whatnot is the next
Is
fraction of what mine was.
Sure.
I'm also-
I mean, we're fortunate. It was a much bigger problem than my parents.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To bring them in compliance. So anyway,
Now, is that a Dr. Brown?
Yes, life-saving.
They're great bottles.
I
Clean to
recommend them to
clean.
everyone. Yeah. Well, we do the glass too because we had the plastic for, oh, no. No. The glass were harder, the twins to upkeep. Breaking stuff together, but as far as sanitary, I
yeah,
like the
and then we can
glass a
take care of
lot.
this guy first.
You know, our first one liked the Dr. Brown's initially, and then he ended up switching to like the Advent bottles.
Oh, yeah, that are more
womankind
womankind-like.
Those were so much easier to clean. You just clean the bottle, clean the nipple, and you
Yeah,
put it in
these have
sanitizer, and it's done. This, you've got like all the interior pieces you gotta
But
clean.
no
and-
gas.
Yeah,
That's
That's good.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they say they get really confused, but she's not, she finds any source of food, and it's like, oh.
Hmm.
I think we'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with everybody. We need to get John on the way. So I would like to call the March 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Ohio Elections Commission to order. I know, startle a baby.
Fine, she sleeps in the back of your bed.
Polite
That's
tap, I
right.
think I've ever done.
So, Mr. Richter, will you please call the roll?
I will gladly do so. Ophelia Hagen?
We're both present,
Okay, then
she has the
Christina
authority.
Hagen, excuse me. Mr. Lyle?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Vice Chair Tavares?
Here,
Chair Kaufman?
Here.
The current members of the commission are all present.
Okay, thank you. The first order of business is approval of the February 23rd, 2023 minutes. You've all,
Madam Vice Chair, can I just ask for one correction I just shared with Chris? My middle initial B as in boy. It appeared for some minutes and then this one it didn't.
Oh. Well, you got left off of a meeting because you weren't, that
Right,
probably got
right,
dropped somewhere,
exactly.
so. All right, with that one change, and then there were, from what I originally sent out, Mr. Knight made a comment on adding an abstention for Ms. Tavares in the
Mhm.
motion to pass the minutes.
Thank you very
And
much.
Mr. Lyle caught that the word appreciation should have been in one of the last paragraphs where Mr. Beatty and Mr. Kreitz.
Second paragraph of other business.
Yeah, after other business, and
oh,
I
yeah.
made those
Just said
corrections.
appreciate.
So those corrections have been made. This one will be made, and so if you want to make the motion that accepts these with that addition, I will make that change, and then,
So moved.
Second.
there we go.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0,
5-0, which is
That's gonna be weird.
sufficient. I will ask everybody, if you go ahead, since the last page isn't being changed, go ahead and sign, and
Oh,
then
here.
all I have to do is change the first page. I just gave one to Ernie.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Take that.
Okay, so the first matter we're going to take out of order because we have someone here. So that would be the $2,000 fine category. And pronounce your name for me so I don't mispronounce it. Tawan. Tawan Dow is here. So if you would like to step forward and be sworn, if you'd like to speak.
Swear from the top truth, whole truth, and
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this case involves essentially now, what was originally a failure to file subsequently became a late file, and the Board of Elections has indicated that all reports have been submitted by the campaign committee for failing to file, initially failing, now late, filing a designation of treasurer, various addendums to reports, et cetera. Actually, there's been no response submitted. Obviously, Mr. Dow has been sworn. We can hear from him. My recommendation at this point is, as Chair Kaufman indicated, was to find a violation of proposed fine of $2,000. That primarily comes from the fact that as you look at the ICW, you can see all the various prior matters that have been outstanding. concerning this candidate. And so, I will probably stick with my recommendation, but if the commission, after hearing what Mr. Dow has to say, wants to go in another direction, that is fine by me. Mr. Dow, please, go ahead.
Yes, as it relates to that, probably around November of last year, I went into the Board of Elections and talked with them about how do I transition from running as a political candidate and transitioning to run for judge. And I had filled out the paperwork for a designation of treasurer for judgeship, and they accepted it. And they told me, as long as you follow all of these rules, you will be fine. Don't do anything until we tell you to. So, and that's exactly what I did. So when I had not closed out my other account for the political account because they told me not to, even though they had the paperwork. And in the process, I got all of my paperwork together, the one that the file that you're referencing. And then I turned them in. I was getting my petitions together, and I was there at the Board of Elections getting my petitions. And Mary Rose Amato came up to me and told me that I was good to move forward. She told me I'm good to move forward, gave me paperwork. 4 days later, the auditor calls me and said they need additional information and tells me that I should not have moved forward at all. Now, even at that time, I still hadn't closed out political account. So to me, it put me at a grave disadvantage because I'm following the direction of board leadership in making this transition. And so that's why I was kind of, off guard when a supervisor comes up to me and tells me that everything is fine, I can move forward. And then 3 or 4 days later, someone calls me and said, no, you need more additional information. So, I did everything they told me to do.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions?
I just have one question to the executive director. When somebody goes from a partisan election to a judgeship, which was not partisan, do they close out their account or do they just switch the name of the account or treasurer? Because I know when I ran for Secretary of State,
Right.
you just change
Right.
what you're running for.
Right.
If you want to change treasurers, you can do that.
You have to you can't just do that when you're running for a judgeship. When you run for a judgeship, you have to start from scratch. And a lot of that goes back to what the canons obligate a candidate to do. And so there's the interplay between what the statutes obligate and what the canons obligate. But when you play them together, you can't, and we had that, Mr. McTighe was representing somebody that was before us a while ago who, David Leland, where they wanted, they couldn't terminate the other one and they wanted to go ahead and do that. And it's like, well, that's nice, but you can't do that. When you're running for judge, you have to have your other one closed. And so that was a part of what played into this, I know, from having discussions with Ms. Amato that he was talking to. And so that's one of the complexities that comes into play when you're having that. But it's like, if that's what you want to do, you better be prepared for that and figure out what you're going to do with the whole committee before you open the other one. And, I think especially if you're running for judge, you should be aware of what the statutes obligate you to do under that set of circumstances. I'm not trying to take anything away from you.
Oh, no, well, and understand that to this date, I have not used any of that money that was transferred over to the account. So when you talk about expending funds, the funds were never used. So even at that time, they were not used and they have not been touched to this date. And mind you, it's money that I've loaned to the account. So that money that is in the judicial account now, or even during the process of this violation, none of that money was expended. And I did in fact call down to the proper individuals that's over the cannons. They gave me information that's inconsistent with what the board gave me. To the vice chair's point, I could have changed my name based on the phone call that I had, which they told me I could not do at the board. They said I had to change the account over. But understand, when I submitted the paperwork, my partisan account was not closed. I came to them for direction and guidance.
Yeah.
The account was not closed. Even when they took the paperwork, the account was not closed. While I was getting my paperwork together, the account was not closed. While I was getting my paperwork together, no money was expended at all. And when I turned my paperwork in, that's when they said it was a violation. And out of Ms. Amato's mouth, if you follow what we tell you, you will be fine. That's what she told me, and I did exactly what they told me to do. She came up to me personally and told me that I was fine. And what other resource do I look to determine whether I'm in good standing to move forward, other than her representation? And then 4 days later, someone tells me otherwise. I did everything they told me to do, and I did not close that account, nor did I expend any funds on any judicial activities during the process of following their direction and them telling me what I needed to do to be in good standing.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I have a question for you, Mr. Rector.
Sure.
So is it my understanding that the reason for the fine is not necessarily you running for judge? It's for the outstanding, maybe in like combination with the things I'm looking at. I mean, they go back to 2003, and then they are up until 22. So a lot of times what we look at and what Mr. Richter looks at when
Right,
he's
and what
making
I will
these.
also point out, I'll interrupt you just to say, there have been other fines imposed that have been paid.
Right, he's
the
paid
past.
$1,200.
Yeah, so I
total.
mean, I went up here even,
Yeah,
and so, yes, I, please
he looks at things in
continue, but yes.
totality, I think is what, like, when he looks to make a recommendation of a case, he looks in totality at everything. So it wouldn't just be that one situation at this time. There's still outstanding fines.
No,
So that's where,
I'm sorry, there's outstanding fines?
Yeah,
I thought I
it-
paid all of my fines.
it looks like there's one from 17 for 500. Like we have the kind of like a compilation in front of us.
Oh, from my vantage point, I've paid every fine that has come. I mean, it's been a challenge because sometimes you call around and you send the check in and it says it's not here, but from my understanding, I've paid everything. And if there's anything outstanding, if there's someone that I can talk to, I would love to be able to do that, but
Sure, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's where the $2,000 is coming from. And that's from looking at what we have in front of us. Because, they just, Mr. Richter and Mr. Hughes kind of lay it all out for us as to what brought that, him to that decision.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at on our end. So, Mr. Richter, would you like to address that? Or?
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. Let me double check. It could be, considering I do a lot of cutting and pasting, I'm double checking as it relates to that fine to see
Okay.
if we have received something in the interim. But with these, I know we haven't done any reconsiderations for cases, from 2021, 2022, involving this candidate. But let me double check that as well, which maybe I should have in advance of this, but I didn't, honestly. And then it'll only take me a minute or two too.
And even when I went in there, they were very disrespectful. I mean, the way I was treated. And when I turned it in, what she said under her breath, I'm not gonna repeat, but basically of just even trying to get some guidance. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. And it referenced her referring me, and it made put some other comments out. but I'm just saying, you know, it wasn't, when I came in there, it wasn't like they were open to help. It was just more or less like scolding me in a sense. I just want to make sure I did this the right way, and I did exactly what they told me to do.
Well, we can't apologize on their behalf, but I'm sorry you had to, you know,
Yeah.
to go through something that was uncomfortable for you.
And when I went in there for the board, we were there for I was there for my petitions. I didn't even come there to ask them about the reports because all of them were turned in. And I assumed they would reach out to me and let me know if all of them was right. I was there doing my petitions, and they proactively came up to me to discuss and tell me that I was okay with moving forward.
The last payment we received was for this figure, 15.
Yeah, so the last payment we received was for a case in 2014, but we received in 2015. So there's an outstanding, just for your benefit, if you, like, you know what I mean, like you said, you wanted to get it taken care of. There's one from 17, there's one from 22, and then there's also outstanding from another one in 22. So 21 and 22. So 17, 21, and 22. So.
I had paid off them.
Yeah, and when if this is what the commission does, and I appreciate that, you know, this is not exactly a low-level fine, I appreciate that I would consider that in compliance, taking into consideration all of the prior matters and getting them all into compliance. So it takes that into consideration when I make my recommendation like this.
Yeah, from my understanding, I have paid off of these. I don't know, and then sometimes it's like when they call, I'm paying different people. Like I'm sending payments to people that are calling. I don't know if they've been referred to somebody, and I'm sending checks to them. But from my understanding, all of these were paid. But if I repay them or if I did not pay them, I don't know, because it's like sometimes, like I guess I don't know if they contract them out to third parties or whatever the case may be.
Sometimes, because I don't think we've referred anything on as it relates to you in a more current basis. Aside from that,
Maybe the 17.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, and I sent payment to them because they were calling the treasurer, not me. They didn't call me at all, and the treasurer was getting a lot of flack, so I had to call on his behalf, and I paid them that.
We're happy to give you, something that will give you everything as one snapshot. And then, that will help you for ease of getting everything, put together and taken care of, because it sounds like you're very earnest wanting to make sure that you're up to date.
Absolutely, and I don't like to go from one election to the next. That's why I always try to pay it when the issues, and I think I was in office even at such times.
Do any commissioners have any other questions?
I just have a clarification, Mr. Dow. When you
Yes, sir.
say you paid them, who is them?
Well, one of them that I know was an understanding where there was a third party, I think a law firm or something, that had reached out. They were contacting the treasurer and not me. And so I went in and spoke to them on his behalf, and I made a payment. But I can't really reference or give you any particulars about it, but I did make a payment to whoever that I think it was a law firm or some sort that we had paid. I paid a couple times, other than the ones I sent in directly here. I had talked with third parties.
And how did you pay?
I think through credit card, or I can't remember, but I would assume possibly through credit card. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. And I can maybe reference it. I mean, I could look.
You could
my
check
records.
that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Question. Mr. Richter, is your intent that the 2,000 encompasses everything? So that would be the total fine, everything would be done?
Yes. Actually, as I look at, I didn't properly reflect it, I apologize. There was a partial payment made. Well, in response to your question, Mr. Lyle, we'll refer matters along to the AG's office, and we did refer that. We received, according to this note in 2019, we received a $200 payment toward that $500 amount. And I didn't
Okay,
reflect
that was in the
here.
17, you said?
That was for 17 R456.
Okay, so you paid 200 of it?
Correct.
Okay,
As I look at my case summary sheet now,
I got you.
and I can see how that wouldn't necessarily get properly reflected in the other thing I was looking at, which was the payment into the accounts, because that then is, that comes to us in a check from the AG's office and not necessarily identified. I should look this up.
I just want to clarify that we're discussing case number 2023R-008, just for clarification for the record.
And would the $200 be gross? I mean, if it went through a third-party law firm, they took a commission. So what would he have hit? What would the treasurer have paid to get us $200?
There I'd have to technically go back and look at the, it all gets broken out to us. I don't have that in front of me right at the moment. 9% is the standard amount that the AG's office will take out. What, I am not sure off the top of my head, if they assign it out to somebody else, what amount they might take as well.
Okay.
Mr. Richter, I've got another question. This just references the 2023 R-008. Why aren't we combining all the cases in this situation so that we can make him clear for whatever the amount is, once we find out what the amount is based on what Mr. Dow has referenced that he's already paid, so we can get an accurate amount, and then from my vantage point, so we can get a better idea of what we should find.
I wish I had a better answer than I could have, and sometimes in the past I do that. Here I didn't. In terms of reconsidering these matters, bringing them all back together. But like I said, not that you guys are going to impose a $2,000 fine, but let's say he paid that today. And then look, not that I'm wanting to see you again here back before the commission.
Yes,
Let's say
sir.
it happens again in another year.
No.
What I would reflect on all of these prior listings is the payments today in response to that.
But it would be clearing all of these others if an action was taken today, whatever the action
Right.
was, it would be clearing
It
all
would.
of this.
It would.
Okay.
But I didn't,
Okay.
So might someone make a motion to consolidate them all, or is that?
That's
blind?
certainly possible. No, that wouldn't be to reconsider the prior matters and then consolidate all of these into this particular case. That is, I could state
So from
that.
17 on.
Ms. Kaufman, would I be able to ask a question to Mr. Richter?
Absolutely.
On that case summary page, what date was that payment from the AG? It should say,
December 19th.
from what year?
December of 19.
December of 19? If you give me a minute, I can tell you what a special counsel would have kept aside as their fee, the AG's fee. I can tell you out of that 200 if you give me just a split
It's
second.
EOC 2649 is the reference.
And
That, cause see, when I made I make payments, I usually, and I don't know what was represented, I don't send like partial, like I try to get it done because it defeats the purpose to send multiple checks, but maybe I did at that time. I don't know what they represented and told me I needed to pay. But when I usually, if I have to pay, I pay. I pay it all. There's no sense of sending multiple payments in for it, but I don't know.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question to the Executive Director? Executive Director, what is the differential between all that would be stacked up here and the $2,000 fine?
Well, I mean, first off, if you looked at all the $25 a day and everything that would have kicked in all these, you'd be into the substantial thousands. But as you can see from the just the last two, one was $25 a day with a payment of $1,000 that I recommended in February of last year. Then we had another case in June that identified the 5,050 is reflective of $25 per day from the date of Post General 21 was due until that day. So it would be a lot more than this, but we're typically bringing fines back to a much lower level. And part of my 2,000 comes from the $1,000 on case number 2021 R-413 in terms of looking to double a prior decision when you have subsequent cases. So, I don't know if that's exactly responsive to what you were asking, but that's kind of where the number came up, where I came up with the number from, and also realizing the $500, at least we showed there the $500 outstanding.
I just want a point of clarification. The $1,000 one, are you saying I did not pay that? Because I sent the check.
It was in 2022, it was last February.
Okay. You did
And
receive that.
I'm not sure what kind of notice you would have received of it. I know we haven't subsequently sent that along to the AG's office
Okay.
for collection.
But you got
But
a
that's
check
a-
for
that-
that. I sent a check in for the $1,000. I hope that, I just need a point of clarification. Are you saying you received that?
I don't recall receiving anything
Oh,
on
yeah, I
that
sent
in the
that. I
last,
sent that.
as I
know I
ran,
personally sent that in the mail.
as
So
I
I
ran.
didn't know that was still something.
But see, that was in order to get reconsideration, you were supposed to pay that. And I know we haven't reconsidered any cases you have, so that's one that, if you had sent that amount in.
No, I know, listen, I'm under oath. I know for 100% of fact, I sent $1,000 to that address that came to my house, and I put a check in the mail and sent it back.
You know you made it out to
The ethics, because at first I
the Ethics
initially,
Commission.
yes, sir, because
Should be there.
elections, at
Okay.
first we sent it to the elections, and I sent it to the wrong one, and I talked with them. And then I resent it to, I stopped payment on that check, and I talked with them, and I resent the check.
Hold on,
Okay, you said, hold on?
hold on.
Okay.
I am showing a payment in November
Like,
of $2,000, which I swear to you, I just ran his name in here and it didn't find it. Now I run it again and it's there.
About 2,000?
2,000, yes. Which would have been, and I don't know what to say. I normally we would take that, but then I would put the matters up for reconsideration. I didn't do it.
should we take a brief recess possibly and do a quick assessment?
So we have,
So we received everything.
yes.
Less than 300 or no? The differential of that 500 to the
But
200?
if he paid the amount to the AG's office,
Yeah,
he's
that
not
would-
responsible for the
Right.
Right,
No, this came
collection
to us.
of the,
This came to us.
yeah.
That's on them.
This came to us.
You're saying from AG's
No.
office again, directly to you.
And you just missed it the first time?
I
through,
I
or-
swear, I've been running his name, because I started running his name into the, into our receipts account here from 15 on, and the only one prior, and then I just reran it again in this fiscal year. I guess I didn't run it in this fiscal year previously. But I would normally, when I got a check like that in these kinds of matters, what I would normally do is then put these matters back up for reconsideration. I didn't do it. So I apologize.
So
There's no excuse for that.
knowing what we know now, what would your recommendation be?
Consider, my recommendation initially probably would have been $100 fine because we didn't receive a response. But I'd say a $50 fine, now that he's made his comments to the commission. That would be my recommendation.
Madam Chair, so that will, if I may, I'm sorry, that will clear the deck on everything.
I would say as long as the motion includes
Reconsidering
language
these
to
matters.
reconsider all previous matters.
Correct.
We do have a floor for discussion, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I mean, I can certainly empathize with going to a governmental agency or group for that matter, private sector. And, you know, being told different things and relying on them, and the frustration that causes. I also kind of feel as if we put a little extra undue stress on you here this morning around whether you did or did not pay. So, you know, I personally would be in favor of a violation for good cause and no fine.
I would second that.
Well, I'm gonna move to.
So I was gonna say, so your motion then.
My motion is to find a violation for good cause.
Is to reconsider the outstanding matters, primarily case numbers 22R087 and 2021R413. To reconsider those matters, vacate the previous per diem fine amount findings, to consolidate those matters with this case, and then to find that there's still a violation, but for good cause, not impose a fine or refer the matter for further prosecution.
Yes.
Great job there. I would second that.
Okay. We have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for appearing. I do feel like this is something that we were able to work out with you being here, so I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And opportunity to speak. So.
Thank you,
And I
sir.
apologize for indicating that there were
No
no
problem.
payments when there
No problem.
obviously were. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. And I apologize to the commission members for indicating otherwise, let's put it that way.
Okay. So. Okay, so the next item.
Should we
for
start up here
discussion,
and deal with this one and then work our way down through the groups? and then
whatever
we're
you
done?
think is the way.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
So we have a preliminary, I'm sorry, my lips are sunburned and I cannot talk. I mean, like, I don't.
Get any
Put some more of that
I know,
on.
I just have to say
What vacation did you take that got your lips under? I'm kind of how I'm feeling.
Listen, it was awful and rainy when the sun came out of my, and that's what happened. So I apologize.
That's a good problem to have.
I know, right? I apologize for my mush smell. Okay, so the first item is a preliminary view, Citizens for Today's Libraries et al. That's case number 2023G-001. They're not here, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Richter to give us a rundown.
More than fine. Madam Chair, members of the commission, you've received all the materials we've received on this matter. This is a self-referral. I've been going back and forth with both staff at the Board of Elections and also Mr. Russo, the listed treasurer. They have a discrepancy in their campaign committee. I think they finally figured it out that it's approximately $985 that their committee is showing more money in the account than they have. They have not been able to discover what the problem was. And so, in going back and forth with them, I encourage them to submit a self-referral to give us an opportunity to address the case. If you look at the complaint self-referral that they submitted, I have a little bit of a problem with some of the wording that they used in terms of identifying the nature of their situation, listing it as a small inconsistency, a minor discrepancy, etc. Needless to say, the Board of Elections looked at that a little bit differently, and I got a written response from the campaign finance examiner of the board. And so, if you look at the recommendation, it's finding a violation and imposing a fine of $958.01. I have approximately $985, but it's $958.01. Declare the committee to be in compliance, and then establishing their new balance at either $5,358.37 or whatever it is today, because when they filed the referral with us, that was the amount that they indicated that they currently had. And so I would just recommend that we indicate that whatever their current balance is as of, let's say, today's meeting, is the balance that they can take forward, and then they're in compliance and they can go forward and hopefully, not have any problems in the future. But that's my recommendation. I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you may have.
Questions of Mr. Richter? Do we want to, my question is, do we want to do the 98501 or do the 95801?
I'd say 95801, because I think that's a more,
Okay,
I think that's a better number, let me
Okay.
put it that way.
all right.
Madam Chair, I'll move the executive director's recommendation, a motion, the violation and impose a fine of $958. Is it 04?
Go one.
01.
01. Thank you. 01.
Second.
Excuse me. So, Mr. Richter would like the fine to be 95801.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been, made by Mr. Lyle, seconded by Mr. Knight.
Correct.
All in favor of, this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. So the next,
Now we're in the groups.
we're into the groups. The next section is declare the committee terminated pursuant to Commission Advisory Opinion 97 ELC-04. That's case number 2023-R-003.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I got an email from the staff at the Lucas County Board of Elections a couple months ago, indicated that they had information that Mr. Goldman had passed, and he was both the candidate and the treasurer. And with all due respect to you three newer members, I don't know that we had any of these last year. But back in, obviously, 1997, I issued an opinion on behalf of the commission that indicated that in a situation where this kind of circumstance arose, a board of elections should send a referral down to the commission, indicating their information that they had a situation where there was an open campaign committee and that a candidate who was also the treasurer had passed, and so there was no one responsible, essentially, responsible for filing additional campaign finance reports, and that the commission would then subsequently declare them terminated. And so that's the situation we have here, because otherwise that campaign committee would remain open and there's no way of doing anything with it because there's no one responsible for it or would have responsibility for it. And so that's the situation we have here, and it relates back to that advisory opinion that's listed there.
Questions of Mr. Richter? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
So I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor of this signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. The next case is a good cause case, 2023-R-014. Mr. Richter.
In this particular case, the respondent has submitted a response. Hold on, I'll get there. I apologize. Failing to file certain addenda was due toward the end of 2022, was recently filed. This was the candidate's first run for office. In his response, he indicated he was unavailable due to a hospitalization and subsequent rehab stay. All reports have now been submitted and the committee is in compliance. With that set of circumstances laid out, my recommendation is to find a violation, but for good cause, not impose a fine.
Questions? Do we have a motion?
So
Second.
All right. So we have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. The next section is our 50 fine category. Do you want me to take them all together or?
Yep,
Okay.
take them all together.
All right, so these are cases 2023-R-007, 2023-R-015, 2023-R-018, and 2023-R-019.
These are all matters where addendums have been requested by the Board of Elections that were not timely filed. One was a little close in time than some of the others, maybe a month or two, outstanding to when they were subsequently filed. And so my recommendation, and these are all persons that are before the commission for the first time. And so my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $50. I'll be glad to answer the questions that you may have.
Any questions? Any comments? Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move the executive director's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 5-0. The next category is $100 fine category. These are cases 2023R-001, 2023R-013, 2023R-016, and 2023R-017.
The first two matters that are listed in this category, 001 and 013, are persons that are before the commissioner for the first time. Reports have been filed, but no response has been submitted to the commission. The last two matters there, 16 and 17, are cases where the campaign committee, the respondent has been before the committee, has been before this commission before, and either a fine or a good cause finding against them. They're now back again for a second referral. Response has been submitted, the reports are filed, and so my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $100.
Questions?
All the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. The next category is the $150 fine category, 2023R-005.
This is a case where it's, yeah, this is one of the ones, if you would see an updated ICW before you today. Response came in over the last week or so. Reports have been filed. They're a couple of months late, essentially. This is the second time they've been before us. There's a prior outstanding matter where we imposed a fine, found a violation, imposed a fine of $25 a day, give them the ability to have the matter reconsidered. The response, I'll read some of my synopsis of it. Treasurer's first endeavor in being as a campaign treasurer. He's 75 years old, does not anticipate continuing to serve. He also suffered a stroke in his abilities. Acknowledges that mistakes were made. It indicates, though, that they were relatively minor. In a lot of cases, when you had a matter like this where we had a prior outstanding case, I'd recommend a higher fine, but because of the physical circumstances he reflected in his response to what he suffered, my recommendation here is to find a violation and impose a fine of $150 less than what I would normally recommend after somebody had a prior with a per diem fine involved. I'll be glad to answer the question that the commission may have.
Are the reports still not filed?
No, they're filed.
They're filed.
Yes, everything is in compliance.
Oh, good.
According to the Board of Elections.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries a vote of 5-0. The next category is reconsider. Okay. Reconsider all outstanding matters, consolidate all cases, find a violation, and impose a fine of $250. That would be case 2023R-006. Mr. Victor?
Yeah, this is a situation where the gentleman has been before us on numerous occasions, had a couple of outstanding matters after a good cause fine. My recommendation now of finding a violation, consolidating all the outstanding cases, reconsidering them out, and imposing a fine of $250 is just reflective of the number of outstanding matters. If you look at the ICW, you can see there wasn't a great in-depth response that was submitted, but he did submit a response. indicating that he worked with staff and completed and submitted all the reports. So anyway, that's my recommendation.
Any questions, Mr. Richter? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried with a vote of 5-0. Okay, the next category is continuances. We have continued to the meeting of April 13th and then continuing for service, which I believe I can do by just.
Yeah. You can.
Okay, so the first case is continue the case to the meeting of April 13th, 2023. That is case number 2023R-009. The next group would be continued for service, 2023R-002, 2023R-004, 2023R-010, 2023R-011, and 2023R-012. Those cases are all continued.
And that is all of the official case business that the commission has today, Madam Chair.
The next order of business would be discussion concerning the criteria to assess commission operations in the position of the executive director, and Mr. Richter circulated to us some things I think.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, based on our discussion earlier.
Yep.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I have to go.
yeah.
I told the other committee, we're putting our dog down.
Oh,
I
sorry
had
to
a
hear that.
stroke in the morning, so the only reason I came, because we're at 5 and you were coming all the way, so my wife is heading to the vet right now. I
Okay.
just got a text, so
Okay.
Do
if
we
we
need
can
to
conclude the meeting, I'd
Just
appreciate
to
it.
call it, I mean,
conclude the meeting?
Yeah, because we need 5 to do it, right?
Okay.
well,
Yes or no?
So
You
just a
can't.
discussion from me.
It's
Right
a
now,
discussion.
adoption.
yeah, there's no other business to take place aside from discussing this. So I don't think we need to close the meeting at this point.
Unless
no
you feel
votes.
strongly about being here when we go over it.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to, I don't want to hold anybody up, but I just, how are you going to adjourn the meeting then if you don't have a quorum? I guess would be my question. You can't.
We have in the past.
I don't think that's proper in the Robert's rules, but, okay.
It's a
I
good
mean,
question.
When you fail to have a quorum, you
Yeah,
fail,
just.
you can talk, but you guys can have a discussion, but you can't make any decisions.
Right.
No, you're right.
Would include adjourning the
Right.
meeting.
So
Right, and I
it
wasn't anticipating that we would make any final decisions on this.
would
You
seem.
adjourn the meeting, I'm leaving. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
I say we adjourn the meeting.
I would
I
say
think
you
we can
can
still
adjourn.
talk
You
about
can still
it.
I
talk.
feel like you feel strongly about wanting to be here, and I think we need to respect
do,
that.
Yeah,
I
I do.
think we need
Okay.
to absolutely respect
So are
that.
you moving to adjourn the meeting then, Mr. Lyle?
I am.
Second.
Mr. Morris just seconded it?
There's been a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I gotta run, I apologize.
Bye.
Passes
All right.
Bye.
Many
Bye, good luck,
prayers.
John.
Thank you.
All right, so this is our homework then.
Thank you.
I take it. This is our homework.
This is our
then.
homework.
That's your
Study
homework,
this,
yeah.
Come back with.
Yeah, I'd put it on the next meeting. We'll just move it forward then. And maybe we'll have 2 more people to discuss it with.
Really? Is that?
No.
Oh. I have to
Oh,
say,
wait a
I
minute.
said maybe.
Mr. Richter, let me just make you feel better.
Yeah.
I have another commission that I'm well aware of that they haven't had anyone appoint for 18 months.
Oh,
So don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad, but it's not
Yikes.
too crazy. We have not gone that long, but we have gone months, obviously, before persons were appointed. And so it's not necessarily out of the order totally for the commission to go for a while. So be prepared for it. But maybe it'll happen. I don't.
it feels so empty without.
Keep hope
you know,
alive.
Otto and Mike. It just feels like, I don't
Because
know.
it's weird,
It's
isn't it?
bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so efficient.
Well,
Whack.
not gonna tell you you should walk
I'm glad that
into,
that's not on the
walk
record.
into a meeting room here and either not already see Mr. Price sitting there.
Like I say,